You heard the other one?
I turned it up.
Try it one more time. Got a whistle or something.
Hi all. Oh,
There we
sorry.
are.
Hi all. Thank you for being here. My name's Chris Elder. I'm Faculty Senate President, and all of you, most of you lovely people are faculty senators and engaged or just engaged people on campus. So thank you for being here. I'm going to try not to mess this up as our first and only face-to-face meeting of this semester. I might look over to Rick and Nancy to help me fuddle through it. So as I have been informed, we have reached quorum, so we'll go ahead and get started, but I want to invite you to continue to get up and get snacks and drinks as we continue on. And I hope you have introduced yourself to the people at your table, especially if there's somebody that you don't know. I think that's one of the great opportunities for face-to-face meetings. Plus, it's the reason why I like working in Faculty Senate is I really enjoy meeting people across the disciplines. So I hope you'll have a chance to take advantage of that. So,
Approval of agenda.
no, but what's the first thing I say, right? Like,
Call to order.
call to order. And I'm purposefully just being so lame with this so that one of you will agree to run for president-elect and say, oh, I could do this so much better than her. So at 3:08, we'll call to order. And first we have on our agenda approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion? John Burke. It doesn't be challenged remembering your names without the little square. John Burke, do I have a second? Justin, thank you. Approval of the February 27 meeting minutes. Do I have to vote on the previous thing? Yeah, okay, all those in favor? Any abstentions? Any opposed or? Okay, thank you. Approval of, looks like that's approved, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now the minutes.
Approval of meeting minutes from February 27th. Are there any deletions, corrections, additions? Okay, looking like there is none. Meeting minutes are approved. Okay. We'll move on to the consent agenda. We have curricular changes and committee appointments. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Ezra. Although, second? Tell me your name, please.
Ann Waldorf.
Ann, thank you, Ann. All those in favor? Any abstentions? Any against? I guess I'm, yeah, okay. It looks like that passes.
Mhm.
Guess I'm much better at this on Zoom. Okay, so next on the agenda is Faculty Senate report. I'll start by saying, did any of you happen to be at the last Board of Regents meeting? Sever, you were there? Were you there to the end? Okay, so maybe Sever can confirm this. I just wanted to let you all know, I think I mentioned last time that I voted against the 3% compensation increase for faculty in the budget leadership team meeting because I thought it wasn't enough. And so at this past Board of Regents meeting, during advisor comments at the end, I suggested that the administration refuse and donate their 3% raises to faculty until they have brought us parity amongst us and our peer institutions. So I don't know how much longer I'll be at this university, but I thought I would let you know. Also I have a number of things that I have to remember to go over with you so I don't get trouble from Nancy. We're on track with the elections for the Faculty Senate at-large position, and COG and AF&T positions, which is great, starting next week. And nominations for Faculty Senate at-large closed last week?
Friday.
Okay. We're still awaiting some results from a few colleges, schools, branches regarding faculty senators. We should have a majority of senators in place by mid-April. They'll be serving, starting with the 24-25 academic term. We should begin planning for nominations for Faculty Senate President-elect and the Operations Committee. So if you're interested in operations, I'll ask my colleagues to raise their hands. John Burke, keep them up. Sever, John Matthews, Koldru. Are any of our other ops colleagues in here? You might want to talk to them about what the operations committee consists of. Basically, the operations committee, which also includes me and Nancy and Rick are present. We're basically the committee on committees. So we sort of oversee the other faculty senate committees, but really we're sort of the first line of defense before people get to you at the faculty senate monthly meetings. So is it something that's appropriate for our agenda? Is there an ask? That kind of thing. I also hope that one of you will plan on, at least one of you would plan on running for Faculty Senate President-elect. We didn't have someone to run last year, so I'm your Faculty Senate President again for the coming year. And really the only qualification is, I believe, is to be a Faculty Senate senator. Now,
next year.
Next year.
You have to be a faculty senator next year.
While you're president-elect. Yes, okay. And honestly, I can say I really enjoyed this position because not only, meeting more of you across campus and across branches, I've learned a lot about the goings on of the institution, things that I never would have known just being a faculty member here for 12 years. The conversations that you're a part of, or the people that you're able to meet and have conversations with is really interesting. I also feel like you have a real chance to be an advocate for faculty and students in this position. So if anybody's interested, please email me. And I'd be happy to talk to you more in detail about the position. And I would be past Faculty Senate President at the time. So it's not as if you're just left to do things on your own. Plus, as you have seen many times, Nancy and Rick are here to hold my hand. You might not need them as much as I do, but they're there if you need them. So I hope you'll give it your consideration. I also understand, like, I'm an associate professor. I'm not tenured. The same was true of Finney Coleman. He was not tenured, not a full professor. I am tenured, but don't take that away from me. So Finney and I are both associate professors, and as you know, have served as Faculty Senate President. So you don't have to be a full professor. And it's my understanding that you can also be an assistant or a lecturer.
You just have to be voting faculty.
You just have to be voting faculty. I don't necessarily recommend it if you're an assistant because you need to spend your time getting tenure. I would think it's important for lecturers to run because you have a important place among faculty on campus, but I also understand, people needing to weigh the pros and cons of that. So please reach out to me or reach out to John Burke, John Matthews, or Colby or Sever to talk about operations committee. Lastly, be on the lookout for the committee preference survey. So far, we've had 43 faculty respond. And unfortunately, while I appreciate that response, it's not nearly enough that we need to do our committee work. And that's, I feel, where the real work happens. So please consider it yourself if you're not already on a committee, and go back to your departments and your programs, and please encourage the faculty that you represent to submit their preference on one of those committees. And again, it's real work, action items, and you get to work with faculty from across campus and across campuses, right? Okay. Nancy, was there anything else?
I think those were the two things that we.
Okay. All right, so that's my faculty report. Next, I have the pleasure of introducing Director Lisa Walden of UNM Bookstore and Manager of Course Materials, Peg Lewis. And they're here to talk to us today about equitable access and OER materials. And if you're not sure what OER materials, they're here to define them for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Obviously I'm staff, but I was on staff council for like 6 or 7 years, and it brings me back being here and doing the thing. I actually became a parliamentarian because I just couldn't handle not knowing what was going on for the time, and it's all going on in my brain like 3 years since I left. So just FYI. Oh, that's not bad. Okay, so anyway, thank you again for your time. I'm Lisa Walden. I'm director at the UNM Bookstores. Just a little back history on me. So I started in 2006 at the UNM Bookstores as the general book manager, which is not course material. It was the fun part, and that was before Amazon and all of these things happened. And since then have become, operations, marketing, that sort of thing. We used to operate a campus out on the west side, and we operated 3 stores over on the south campus, the athletics, as well as the north campus store, the medical legal branch. Right now, it's just the main store and the medical legal branch that are still open, but at one point was overseeing like 5 stores, so that felt exciting. I've got Peg Lewis here with me. She's our course materials division manager. Course materials division is a big thing, so Peg oversees the actual retail manager for there. And some of you have probably worked with her if you have done inclusive access or had just any general question. That's usually Peg. But what I wanted to come here and talk to you guys about today is, use my clicker, equitable access. Is anybody here familiar with the term equitable access? Any show of hands? Yeah, it's not super well known, but I bet inclusive access is something that a bunch of you have probably used before or do utilize. There you go. So I just want to kind of show this timeline of where we're at the bookstore and trying to look at these different models for students, really trying to give it a more strategic. There's just so much happening in the world, but in course materials, it's really been very quickly becoming a digital world. So about 2 years ago, Peg and I really started talking to our peer stores and our vendors and talking to new vendors, people that offered things we never thought about, really just trying to think outside of the box. Finally, after COVID, started being able to attend conferences, and Peg has done a lot of legwork on that. So that's kind of the 2022 to 2023 years you're seeing up there. Last year, we finally did, talk about this initiative, with our EVP Teresa, and our VP Sean, our new VP Shauna Wolf, if anyone has met her. And then we developed an EA advisory board, that had several members, including Chris, on it, to really sort of help us see what's the best way to go about talking to campus, about this. January happened, that's back to school, kind of February too. We're at that big middle section where you see the meet with campus stakeholders. You guys are you're the most important stakeholder, really, I don't know. Students, I guess. I met with the students, ASUNM last night, actually, same floor, different room. So they have different questions than you guys, but why is it?
Sorry, that was me.
Is that you? I'm like, did I do something? Anyway, so I just wanted to kind of lay out this timeline so you can kind of see where we've been. This isn't something brand new that we're just trying to jump in and don't have any information about, really don't know about its success. We've really been working towards this, and we really do want to have the dialogue, not just, we want to see what everyone's concerns are, all of the stakeholders that this affects. So that's where we're at. And then next month, we'll get into some surveys, and as you see, my timeline ends with the Board of Regents, so we'll see. So this also aligns with the 2040 goal that we have with institutional support services. All right. Which is in conjunction with IT. So this is to promote digital course material models, tools, and strategies. So just a heads up, it is kind of on the president's radar as that, but here's the definitions that we have very similar terms. Definitions, which I'm gonna put on my glasses, not that you can't. So start with inclusive access because most people know what that is. So that's a by course materials acquisitions model where students enrolled in a particular section or course are provided with the required course materials on or before the first day of class, which is the most important thing, if you ask me. Students are not required to come out of pocket for their course materials. As a reduced cost, course material fee is charged to their bursar account. And so that's the model we have right now, right? It's by course. It's an opt-out model, so they're automatically opted in. They have to go into Canvas and opt out. And there's a few ways they can opt out, but that's the main one. And then we charge their bursar several weeks later. So the model we're looking at now, with equitable access, also does involve real-time billing, which I think would just be glorious for so many involved, and definitely less of a headache for the students who thought they had paid for everything, didn't realize they had an IA course, etc. But what is equitable access? So we just call it EA. So when we say IA and EA, it's a whole campus course materials acquisition model where every student in every section, and we're talking undergraduate only right now, across the entire campus is provided with their required course materials on or before the first day of class. Student bursar accounts are charged a single flat fee for all of their course materials, regardless of course or program type in real time. Yes.
So does this mean that costs are going to be shared among all students?
Yes.
Some people's costs will go up and some people's.
Yes, and that's where you get if it's financially more responsible for you to opt out, like last night at ASUNM, there was a theater major. He's like, I have my books. And I was like, then you should definitely opt out. It is not for you. Engineering major, this is going to lower their costs considerably. One final definition I like to throw in there is OER. I'm sure most of you know, are pretty clued in on OER, Open Educational Resources. And this is all done by the library. But the cool thing about EA is that it works in conjunction with OER seamlessly. So the more OER we have on campus, the more free resources we have, the less that fee is going to be, whether it's by hour fee or a by semester fee. The more OER, the less the fee. And that's what we're all shooting for, is to have those fees go down. So Creative Commons defines OER as teaching, learning, and research materials that are either A, in the public domain, or B, in a manner that provides everyone with a free and perpetual permission to engage in the 5R activities. Unlike inclusive and equitable access, OER uses grant funding to create, curate, and make materials free to students. OER content is created by faculty members and other subject matter experts, and not through traditional course material publishers, which that's who we're dealing with. So it all kind of works in conjunction together. So why do these things? I know we have a pretty limited time, so I'm not going to go too far into this, but obviously lowering the cost is one thing. By being able to negotiate with a vendor, the whole pool of everything, we can then lower the cost because it is gonna be more guaranteed sales for them. But it also means that students are gonna pay a significantly lower portion than they are right now. And even with inclusive access, they're paying a significantly lower portion right now. I think the average course material fee is like $280. That was like $600 5 years ago, you know, when it was just prep materials. So we're really quite digital here. Student success and retention. I'm not gonna feel like I have the facts and figures to throw at you right now, but there have been quite a few studies done now that this has been out for a few years that show that student success, especially with having those materials on the first day of classes, is a real thing. And the enhanced environment, really about that equity, that just means that no matter what they call it your input characteristics, everybody has equal access to the course materials. And it can be viewed on phones, tablets, or laptops, or what have you. So here's kind of the current state at the UNM bookstore anyway. So where's UNM bookstore at currently? So this is by course level, like the course level, the number of courses, percentage of courses. Right now, we're at 35% inclusive access. So once you're in inclusive access course, your whole course is inclusive access. You can't really do pieces and parts. So 35% is a pretty high chunk. And if you were to throw in the 4% that we get from ebooks, it's really closer to a 40%. Just put that out there. Okay. Feel free to interrupt. This is one that's by unit level, just to kind of, and you're seeing the growth here. So that's 2019. We started our inclusive access program in 2015. Peg started our inclusive access program. She is pioneer. Oh my God, I can't read that number over there, but it's 50 something thousand units compared to 24 currently. And that's 2024 year to date through spring. And then just looking at, I love pie charts. They make things really clear. So the red is inclusive access. The purple is an ebook. So that's 73% right now of the materials that we are putting out. Not all materials, obviously, we're not counting OER or anything in this. But 73% of the materials that we are producing or providing are digital. So we feel like that was one of the bigger humps when we were talking about this 3 or 4 years ago. It's like, we don't have a whole lot of digital content. We don't know if the campus would be willing to move to something like this. And here's just some models that are available for equitable access. One is just the opt-out, which is what most people go with. It's whether it's by hour fee, which usually goes between like $20 and $25 an hour or credit hour, or if it's a by semester fee, which is typically between like $225 and $250. And then you need to opt out of the entire program. But what we really like is something that Red Shelf, the people that we've been using as our vendor, have created as cascading access. So it starts as an equitable access model where undergraduates, again, are able to go and look at all of their things on Canvas in one place. And I wish I had that for you. That's a whole other presentation, but we're looking to upgrade our Canvas model. It's gonna be really cool. But they can opt out of VA. It doesn't make sense for them if they're arts, if they're somebody that doesn't have a lot. And then they can opt into IA by course, by a single course. So they can go opt out of VA, stay in IA for 3 other courses, and then they can opt out of IA and just go to, I'm gonna go get it from Amazon. So we're really allowing quite a lot of freedom to the students with this model. They are not locked into the equitable access model. They have these choices. And I haven't really gotten there. I don't but let me stress, this model also doesn't lock you guys out of faculty freedom either. It includes print. What was the other thing that it includes?
Well, any publisher.
Any publisher, anything.
Publisher, any
It
content.
really doesn't change what you're doing now.
You get to use OER, you get to use
Yeah.
library resources.
I mean, it is a digital first model, and in large part, some of that's just because publishers aren't really creating books anymore. Pearson stopped doing print books 2022, something like
Yeah.
that. And then there's this, if there was no bookstore, no whatever, this could just be a non-optional, is this a part of your fees and you get no say in it, but we're not doing that. Anyway, we like that second model. And this is just kind of how the bookstore would go about it. I don't know. We're out of time.
I'd like to talk about.
I would love, so let's Peg talk about the implementation.
I'd like to talk about it real fast. This is what the UNM bookstore would be able to do. It's most everything that we're doing right now. We would work with the registrar to get the most complete schedules possible at the beginning before seeking adoptions. We already do that. We get the adoptions from the faculty. is just faculty selecting their material if they need help on pricing or content or publisher. We consult with the publishers and with Red Shop to determine the pricing. We already do that. We would do that with that. We coordinate with the library as to whether they're carrying OERs or they have a free ebook. We do that now. We populate the one thing that's different is that there's a new Red Shell platform that's going to come out, which will enable us to put the link into Canvas for you. So no longer do you have to do that. We would be able to do that because it's informed by your adoption. It goes straight from your adoption when it's approved, and it's visible to the student on Canvas. We educate students and parents at faculty or new student orientation. We do that now. We also do new faculty orientation. We provide help materials on our website. We do that now, and we will update them for equitable access when we can get this going. Because we're able to look now at the student's bookshelf on an individual level, we'll be able to help them, be the front line to help at the beginning of class. They can't see their book, we can look at it, make sure it's in. So this is going to be a huge help. And then back to school, we already bring in print upgrades, optional print upgrades for the inclusive access part. So if they opt out of EA and go into IA and they want a print upgrade, they would come to us just like they're doing now. The print books that are part of EA, we would box up and have ready for the students at back to school, which is very similar to what we do now. We offer them for sale, but with this model, we box them up and make them available to the student. And in their dashboard, they see if it's a print book that they need to come in and pick it up or that they've already picked it up. So it's really a wonderful, wonderful program. And the bookstore is already doing most of this stuff. So it'd be easy to convert.
Thanks, Beck. And again, that facilitating real-time billing and refunds is just, because right now, I have spreadsheets that are multi-thousand. So again, the important points of what we like to talk about with this program are the day one access with any model that we use, print books and OER in any model, OER perpetual access or unlimited seat library ebooks, all help go to lower the overall flat fee. Student success metrics should rise and academic freedom is preserved. I'm not going to quite go into this, but when I was doing this presentation before, CU Boulder is really who we're kind of emulating right now because they have this equitable access model. SDSU, it was doing flat opt-out, and is now moving to the cascading model as well. So it just goes through some of their points. So for instance, I guess I went forward instead of going back, but it was $19.75 per credit hour for SDSU, and then it was $279 per semester right now for CU Boulder. But one of the interesting things, I have quite a few friends there, including people on the ADP level. And so when you set pricing for this as well, just know that that pricing lasts generally between a year to 3 years. So it's not something where it's like the flexible pricing people are talking about, everything's going to be now. Or it's like, okay, your textbooks are going to be, $13 an hour this semester, but in spring, we're going to charge you $69 or something like that. It's a contracted price. And so that will stay in place for probably at least 2 years. CU Boulder has been so successful with theirs. They've been able to partner with their OER program at the library that they're actually lowering their costs, like another 15% or so. So the new price will not have gone up, it will go down. And that's that's what we're looking for something like this. Yes?
How does this, can you summarize a bit of how this affects faculty specifically? Are we doing anything different with faculty since it's the faculty system? Are we, is the process for?
Can you
mentioned
repeat
freedom.
question, Mike?
For the one.
Sure, yeah. The question is, how exactly is this, what is the effect on faculty and what is the difference between what's happening now? And I'm going to let Peg answer it since she is the one who works with faculty directly.
Really, faculty won't have much of a change. You adopt a book just like you adopt now. If it's equitable, if the campus adopts equitable access for undergrad, then every course will go immediately into that. If it becomes digital first, then they would populate it with an ebook first. And if we need to bring in print, we bring in print for it. Your students, when they go to their bookshelf on Canvas, they would make the choice whether they want to stay in equitable, if the pricing is good for them, or if they want to drop into inclusive. And if they don't want to participate in that, they can drop out of inclusive and just get it on their own wherever they want. We'll go with that. So it's really, to me, it's better for with the new Rachel platform where we can populate Canvas. It's a one step fewer for faculty because you don't have to insert that link
Yes.
I have a follow-up question. I thought you mentioned something about, all texts of a course that is, a certain course taught at a certain time. They have to be the same text. Is that something that we would need to go talk to our faculty about or no?
That's not anything that we would control, no.
No, a community college may do that, right? But here at UNM, we have academic freedom, so different sections of the same course can use what they want. That will not change.
Other questions? Well, we left the one-sheeters that have our contact information on the tables, if anybody wants to talk to us about it. Like this timeline says, you guys are smack dab in the middle of the road show. My boss, Alicia Solano, who's the AVP for ISS, is conveniently out of town this week when I have her meeting, so I'd like to issue my thanks to her if she ever watches this recording. But yes, I will be meeting with the Dean's Council on Thursday and with GPSA on Saturday, so it's really cool getting to go to all these groups, but thank you guys so much for your time. Yes?
Does this mean, contingent on the board reading approval, this will be adopted in fall of 24?
Oh, no, it'd be more like 25. We're already past, we're in the adoption, heading through the adoption process for this fall. I'm not saying that some people are gonna want that to happen, but there was just no way, and that was made really clear when we met with the provost, that his timeline aligned with our timeline, that fall of 25 seemed like the best time to roll this out and give everybody time to, and we're also researching all of the other schools in the state that might have a model like this and what they're charging, which some of it's a little shocking, but we won't charge that much. All right. Well, anyway, appreciate your time. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much, Lisa and Peg. Appreciate it. It's always good to know what the conversations are on campus instead of being blindsided by it or receive an email one day about this is the way things are going and what the options are. It's nice to be able to ask questions. I would invite you to, at your next faculty meeting in your department or for your program to mention what Lisa and Peg have talked about today. I've been informed by Rick that we have no public comment for today. So there were two things I forgot to mention in my Senate report, Faculty Senate President report. One, I just wanted to mention that the provost and the president are not here. That's not by design, but you may already be familiar with HACU, Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities, of which we are a member. Basically, I think the eligibility requirement is at least 25% Hispanic student population in order to qualify. But President Stokes is part of a group who has created an additional organization for Hispanic serving institutions or minority serving institutions specific to Research One universities. And so they are currently in Texas at that conference discussing the mission and goals of that new organization, which is why they're not here. So I did ask President Stokes for our meeting in April to be sure to share with us what they discussed at that meeting. I also forgot to mention what the compensation was for Faculty Senate elect, Faculty Senate President, and past President. First of all, I have to say Finney Coleman, I think, was instrumental in increasing this compensation. And I'll just say, I personally was instrumental in making sure that if, like me, you're serving as Faculty Senate President and Faculty Senate elect at the same time, that you're paid for both positions. So Faculty Senate elect, it's a $5,000 SAC. Is there a one course release for the year, for the academic year?
Yeah.
$5,000 and a one and 1 course release for the academic year. Faculty Senate President, it's 2 course release for the year and $10,000. So I'm teaching 1 semester, teaching 1 class this semester, and I taught 1 class last semester, and it's $10,000 stack. Past president, you have the choice of a $5,000 stack or a course release. And basically, that's in order to value and reflect the work that goes into it. So it's not like you don't have to take on this position on top of what you're already doing, but there is additional compensation and release time for it. Okay, I'm gonna ask Rick to pull up a document for me. My fellow social scientists among us want to do a little member checking today. So what I have here on this Word doc, if you weren't here for the last meeting, or maybe you left due to the closed session, faculty senators met in breakout rooms to discuss the new initiative out of Pamela Cheek's office. She's looking at implementing a new first-year experience requirement for students at the undergraduate level, first year, obviously. The second initiative related to this would be looking at grading policies, for example, drop, withdrawal, those sorts of things. And the third initiative related to it would be in relation to faculty development. So those are the 3 areas that senators discussed in their breakout groups last meeting. And so today I just wanted to provide you with a summary of what those comments and questions look like. So for each of those initiatives, I just highlighted questions and highlighted recommendations. I'm meeting with Pamela Cheek about that conversation. So as I said, I'm doing a little member checking here so that if there's anything that you feel your group discussed and isn't up here, or if, excuse me, between see, when you're on Zoom, you have everything at reach. Text Nancy and Rick if I have a question, so I look smarter than I, Okay.
By the summary.
Thank you. So providing a summary of what you all discussed, make sure that I have that reflected in this summary. And if there's anything between that meeting and now that you want to add, please feel free. And if you weren't part of that conversation, also feel free to either let me know, pull me aside and let me know, email me, or share it with all of us here. So questions that came up about the first year experience that I'll share with Pamela. Big one was, what's the commitment from faculty? So, who's going to teach these courses? Is it going to be, if it's going to be within our colleges or our departments or our programs, then what does that mean for faculty within those departments and programs, colleges and programs? What also is the commitment for students? Is this going to add to their number of credits they'll be required to take for graduation, or will this replace another class? So how are these credits going to fit in? And if they are within our programs, departments, colleges, is this instead of particular course content, or will it be made interdisciplinary? Is it one size fits all? And every department, program institutes the same curriculum. I love this. I reworded this a little bit, but is this modeled on first year experience at Towson Los Alamos? Or build on it, as in, we're already doing this at Towson Los Alamos, so you might want to look to us as a model.
Well, I get the sense that first year experience is already a thing.
Ezra agrees it's already a thing.
Yeah, but I think
Here, Ezra, let me give you this.
Push it till the little green light turns on.
yeah, you guys hear me? Sorry. So I get the sense that there are first year experience courses being taught right now, and I think it's by the College of Education,
English,
faculty.
writing, composition.
Yeah, those guys. But I'm not sure what the scope is, and I'm not clear what this increase means either. Third is.
No, I'm gonna add that. Yeah, aren't we already doing this, or how's this gonna look different, right? Or how are those faculty gonna be involved? Yeah, and like Ezra, please jump in if you have a question or you wanna make a comment. What would advisors' relationship be to the course, which I think is a really good question, because I think a lot of times as faculty, we're only as good as our students' advisors. How is student success affected by advisor turnover? So I thought this was an interesting question because I wasn't aware of this, but maybe more of you are. Some of you are nodding your heads. So that sounds like an issue that needs to be addressed, especially if we're gonna launch something bigger. How is student affected by advisor turnover? What is the status on that rate of turnover? Yes, Laura.
Sorry, I think this came out of my group the last time, and this was really.
Ezra, can you pass Laura the mic?
It's just what I wanted.
It's on, I think.
Okay, I think this is what my group talked about last time, and I know that my college has a lot of turnover, and that's a huge problem for students being able to complete their degrees on time. And if the question really was, how do we make sure that students are advised properly and consistently, especially if other colleges and departments are experiencing the same kind of turnover that my college is. It seems like advisors are really important to the success of this program or this proposal. And so I just wanted that to be a part of the conversation.
Yeah, great point, Laura, thank you. These are all great questions. Another great question, how will we measure success of these initiatives that are coming out of the Student Success Office? And in terms of recommendations for first year experience. Thank you. These are recommendations that you all had. So could culminate, the first year experience could culminate in a student-driven project focused on institutional knowledge. For example, where key facilities, resources are available on campus might be profiled, for example. An emphasis was placed by you all on connecting students to those resources, using this as an opportunity to connect them. Honestly, I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one in this room who has escorted a student to a student resource center. I mean, it's really intimidating to go there. It's like going to a new gym the first time. I mean, that's how I feel about going to a professor's office or, going to one of the resource centers. It's so much easier if somebody goes with you. Faculty also had you all had recommendations, about the kinds of skills they should be focusing on in first year experience. Time on task skills, I need help with that. Like, how do you know which tasks to prioritize? When do you say, okay, enough is enough and move on to something else? Or how do you determine realistically how long something should take you or is going to take you? How to best prepare and study for examinations, and I imagine, examinations of all kinds, all stripes, depending on your discipline. There was over and over again recommendation for more support for faculty development. The good news is they're starting to include adjunct faculty as eligible for faculty development for the first time at UNM, and when we rely so much on adjunct faculty, that's really significant to us as colleagues and to our students and to the faculty members themselves. More support for faculty development and building inclusive learning environments. There was a recommendation of creating student cohorts and cautioning against cohorts that are too large. I really like that idea, especially if maybe they're even cross-disciplinary. Do we need to decrease or eliminate large hybrid courses due to some faculty's concern that they're not conducive to community building? But then that was also an area recommended for faculty development. How do we build community in those hybrid and online spaces? And need to find a way to sell the idea to faculty, which I think is a good point. If this is going to be something that they're going to do with us or without us, then how do we get on board, and how do we get our colleagues on board? How do they get us? In terms of grading policies, there was just one question, I believe. Data on there was a question on what the current situation is regarding midterm feedback to students. But I actually think this is a good question in that it begs the question, like, what, I know Dr. Cheek has shared with us national data about the challenges that other institutions are trying to address, and that, these are ways those challenges are being addressed. But I'd be interested in knowing what data we've collected on our own campuses with our own student populations, because it's with that data that we would know how to possibly move forward, right? Or where to spend our energy. Recommendations for grading policies: maintain the flexible credit, no credit policy. I thought that was an interesting idea. And I wasn't sure maybe if this group or this person was referring to during COVID, we had a more flexible credit, no credit policy. And for some students, it may not quite be COVID, but there could be a lot going on in their lives so that it feels just as challenging, right? Recommend early intervention by students by faculty for students struggling. But of course, I would also add that to faculty development. Like, what does that look like? How do we make sure that happens? How do you know? I mean, some of you who teach incredibly sized classes, 50 plus, are you able to keep track of all of those students? That sounds like a really hard job. This was a good point, but how do we balance pass-fail rates with students need to know the curriculum? So I think some faculty or a faculty member might be concerned about maybe they want guarantees that we're not just going to start passing students. So how do you balance retention and graduation rates with the need to know the material, right? And then this comment, more concerned about student understanding than grading. So I think it's related to that issue, I believe, of how do we make sure students are learning what we need them to learn? And then in terms of faculty development, how can we create a sense of belonging in online environments? How do we address disruptive students? How do we keep students engaged? How do we implement ungrading or equitable grading, inclusive grading? How do we address the lack of emphasis placed on good teaching at UNM? I mean, if we want to, I know supposedly, at least on the tenure track, it's 40, 40, 20, right? 40 teaching, 40 research, 20 service, but not when it comes to those T&P conversations, at least in my department. So how do we make sure that that teaching is as valued as some on campus lead us to believe they want it to be valued? So what does that look like in our policies and our practices? And where we put money? And then a recommendation, need to increase professional development funds. Yes, I would say for anyone teaching, including graduate students, obviously. Okay, so 4 o'clock. Oh, 3:57. 3:57? Okay. So I'm gonna ask you, Rick and Nancy were so great about purposefully getting round tables for us all. Please choose a recorder, grab a piece of paper, scratch a piece of paper, and just write down for me. Talk amongst your table. Is there anything else, any other questions that you want to add to this list, or any other recommendations that you want to add? So please introduce yourselves, your names, disciplines, campuses, and just come up with a list for me of any additional questions or recommendations that you have that you'd like me to share. Thank you so much.
Do you want them to go into a breakout room or something so they can chat together?
That's great.
Thank you. I think I know how to do that. So,
Okay. You know, at some point in their degree program, and then we were trying to think of like, well, so what kind of course could this be? And we were coming up with things like a couple of different options here, like something that's about like life skills and study skills, and maybe they bring in the classwork that they're supposed to be doing for their other 3 or 4 classes. And so it kind of helps them be more efficient and effective doing that kind of the work that they're supposed to be doing in these other classes. We also had ideas around what if it was something that had to do with movement or mindfulness, some kind of like stress management, yoga, dance, something along those lines. And trying to brainstorm around that too, because an 8-week course is intense. So if yoga usually met for 2 or 3 times a week, maybe it's every day, just trying to kind of figure out like what would the intensity of this thing look like so that they could still do well in the classes that they had, the 3 or 4 other ones, depending on whatever the result was with the legislature. But yeah, trying to like figure out how to make it something that would help them stay afloat in all of their courses instead of just adding something challenging and then making it just be one of their electives in their degree.
I like that idea of if let's say they drop out of a course that they signed up for, right? Maybe a 16-week course or even an 8-week course, and they know they're not going to do well, they're going to have to drop it, but they wouldn't necessarily, their semester or wouldn't be shot for those 3 credits because then they would go into this course, is what you're saying, That's interesting. John,
Hey, John Burke here. From our table back here, we had a discussion about what is really we want the students to experience at UNM. And how does a first year experience course help them do that? Certain students, work full-time, try to take 15 credit hours. Is that something that's doable to maintain a pace for a 4-year graduation without burning the student out in the first year? Also, if you have parents, children, you have other opportunities that they need to spend time on. Is the 5-year plan really working? First year experience sort of at our table revolved around life skills, time management, how to figure out where they want to go, and kind of a goal setting course almost, where they're able to set goals for what they want after their education, not just getting the education. And it's part of our discussion involved. There are 2 different education systems that here. We have a Canadian at our table, and they're very, very different way of thinking about education. And is that model better than the US model? And of course, everything in many of our discussions comes down to finances. How can we support the students, maintain their scholarships, and continue to make progress before they get frustrated, they get a poor grade in one course, and then they have to make up that course, then it kind of snowballs from there. That's where I'm afraid there's a drop. I don't think lose out. We lose the students for various reasons. And I'm not so sure we understand all those reasons in depth because every student is unique. But being able to understand that, that person's already working 40 hours. Them trying to take 15 hours to make them do well in the future. Have a positive experience.
yeah, John reminds me, not just maybe working 40 hours on top of going to school or taking care of a family, but over 50% of our students on campus are first generation, which means their parents either didn't graduate from high school or didn't graduate from a 4-year college. I'm sure I'm not the only first gen person in here, and that makes a really big difference when you're filling out your FAFSA form and, learning how to register for courses, how to study, that kind of thing. So, not just dealing with the everyday challenges, but that you don't have this history of, I was at Purdue before coming here, and at Purdue, the students are like 4th generation Boilermakers, like they've got this down. And then, coming to UNM, which was much more like where I went to my undergrad at Cal State Long Beach, it's much more diverse population and many more first gen students. So of course, their needs are different. Yes, none of Valencia really. Barbara. I'm Barbara from Valencia. Barbara, thank you for being here. That's so nice. So at our campus, probably a little bit different because we do have TRIO, which helps first generation students. And so there's a lot of support for them. And so they actually have their tutors and have their labs, all of that stuff. What we were talking about at our table was an early alert system. So we've had various iterations of an early alert system at our campus. Basically and maybe it's because our classes are smaller, but when the faculty recognizes that something's happening, then they can report it and then perhaps have some sort of intervention, and I don't know that that's possible at Albuquerque campus because the classes are so huge. But just something that would set a trigger like attendance or grades, maybe inside the candidate system where when it hits a threshold, it just automatically sends an email. Hey, how are you doing? We missed you in class or something like that. The other thing that occurred to me is, so we talked about helping students on the bubble, but the other thing that occurred to me was, as a librarian, we like to offer library instruction just in time. So when you're talking about all of these first year experience courses, study skills and all that stuff,
it would be nice to have that like a combo course, so have like a financial literacy course coupled with an economics course or something like that, you know, so that they're getting those skills, but they're also getting it as part of a class. So, and I'm not sure if that's a possibility, if there could be like a unit or like a Canvas module that you could put first year experience, financial literacy, and it's included in their class if it's applicable. And then we talked about, you know, some students, they're working full time, some just won't ever be reached no matter what the intervention is. But we have to try our hardest, and I think that's what we're aiming for. What else did we talk about? There was a lot.
Do you, I mean, I know some of you have been here a lot longer than I have. I've been here 12 years, and at some time during that 12 years, we had something called Starfish. Wasn't that the name?
Yeah.
And that was an early alert system, right? And that just disappeared one day. I don't know what happened to that. Maybe faculty weren't using it enough, I don't know. Or they were piloting it and it just didn't do what it was. Sorry, Justin, go ahead.
That's fine. I remember Starfish. It disappeared and worked.
Yeah, okay, I'll ask.
So, we talked about a few things, but one thing was thinking about this not only in terms of brass tacks, in terms of practical issues, but also philosophical purpose of higher education, why we're here, why this matters. I think contextualizing it philosophically can help some students who are in college and they're like, why the hell am I here? What? I'm here because I was told to, because I'm expected to, but what's the actual function? And it could be critical, it can explore critical inquiry, and these components that help ready these students for what they're going to be facing beyond where the bathrooms are, how to address the message. I think that would be. So.
It sounds like maybe you're saying, like, maybe this relates to what John Mark was saying, like the whole person, right? Like viewing students at the whole person, right? Yes. Thank you, Justin. How about Amaris, anything your table wants to share?
Hi, we have just like a whole list of questions. Because you was your last time. But how is this different than the FLCs, the professional learning communities? I'm sure there's a lot of data from that talks about cohort building and retention. How is it different from university colleges, critical text analysis, basic math courses, or the old FLC deep dive initiative that brought a variety of scholars into enhance core courses that were already happening? How might it interface with freshman first year experiences that are already happening across college, across the university, such as the one in the honors college that is getting up and started next year, or in the English department, University College. Would the credit for this, how many credits would it be? Would the credit be floatable, a floatable requirement like the diversity requirement? Or would people be required to take it as soon as they enter college? If so, how many sections would you need for that number? A lot of the literature on first year experiences says they're best if they're year long. But
Amaris, can you say that again?
A lot of the literature says FYEs are best if they're year long experiences and not just like a first semester or first semester, second 8 weeks. How many credits would it be? Could it allow for double dipping so that students are also doing core courses at the same time? How would it affect transfer students or returning students? I think those are all the questions, because one other question I might add is, if it is some kind of introduction to campus, how might it interface with the conversations that are happening about locking all the campus buildings, much like Zimmerman Library, so that you have to have a local ID in order to enter them.
Before I forget, Anina and Amber online. Can you guys hear me? I don't want to put you on the spot, but did you want to share anything? Will we be able to hear them? Yeah.
Should.
We didn't have any questions or topics that we wanted to add. We just felt like as a group that all the things that have been brought forward are really good points, and we kind of as a consensus agree that we want to focus on being the best teachers that we can be to support our students, knowing where they're coming from. And so we agree that we need professional development for that. We agree that we need more full-time faculty in order to create consistency across the teaching. We want people to have careers, not just be here for a year or two. And it's an interesting conversation that a lot of us feel like we've been having for a while. So it's nice to see that Faculty Senate is bringing it forward.
So Amber, if I read between the lines, student learning conditions are faculty working conditions.
Yes, they're very tied. You know, they're very knit together.
Thank you so much. Was there anybody else who wanted to share something?
We had a second.
Okay.
So one thing we talked about a lot in our group is first year experience that's kind of more, I don't know, generic, like where is the counseling center, you know, why are we here, versus experiences that can really help be a roadmap to a particular degree program. And so I guess trying to figure out what this first year experience is really meant to be, like, is it meant to be a discipline specific thing versus a general thing? And then just the last thing, we also talked about the idea that the solution to every problem seems to always be more, another training, another committee, another survey, another course, and sometimes more is the answer.
Thank you. How about Heather, did your table wanna? Sure. Heather's like, yeah.
We talked about something I haven't heard mentioned yet, that's a little uncomfortable, but I'd like to say it out loud anyways, is that UNM accepts almost everybody that applies. And not all of those people are going to be college ready, and sometimes they just have to fail. And we can't catch everybody. That doesn't mean we shouldn't try or give up, but maybe this conversation around rubrics and metrics and getting people to graduate on time isn't gonna fit our students who come from all walks of life, who are working full time, who do have parents and children daycare and all of these things. And so this is who we need to support too, not just get them to graduate quote on time and out the door, but this larger situation that we're dealing with. And how do we equitably deal with this? And in respect to all the teachers too, because how can we possibly follow up with everybody? This is a first year conversation that has to also happen.
Yeah, you know, it's actually interesting because my MA is in TESOL, teaching English to speakers of other languages. And so sometimes, depending on the institution I was at, this was a conversation we had, because what are we promising non-native speakers of English, for example, or multilingual writers or international students? What are we promising them by accepting them? So I think it's an interesting question, something to think about, right? Because if we're accepting you and saying, yes, please, you know, are we just accepting dollars, or are we also making a contract with them, and are we fulfilling that contract? And
the only thing I was thinking is, I think we have to ask and this goes to your point, what are we promising, you know, native English speakers, right? What is a college degree going to do for you? And is it in line? I sort of jokingly said, maybe the first year experience class needs to be a senior high school course, right? So that you don't have to, my concern is much like yours, anybody who really wants this, and I think we should get rid of any obstacles in their way. But I think we have students who don't know quite what college is it right for them? And then what happens is, once they're here and they fail, then that's hard. That's hard to get over, no matter where you go from that.
Yeah, and I want to make sure, I didn't mean to imply that those who need the most help are multilingual speakers or non-native speakers or international students. What I was trying to say is, I've only had that conversation about that demographic or that demographic of student populations. I've never had it when considering the whole student population is what I was trying to say, because for sure, some of our multilingual, multi-writer, international students don't need any of our help. You just point them in a direction and they go, and then they end up at graduation, right?
I was just gonna say, I think, also being really clear about what this courses are for, because I think our table was talking more about sort of the safety net, like if, so that they wouldn't lose their scholarship. But I hear other people talking about this as achieving different kinds of goals or serving a different purpose, like just a common experience for all first-year students. And so, sorry if our table missed it. It was my leadership that put us in that direction. But I think just being super clear about what the point of this is, what the goals of the first year for the notes for knowledge.
Yeah.
What is it we're trying to accomplish with this? Because I hear different kind of people have different things in mind, I think, as we're responding to the prompt.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great question. Okay. I think this has been I think the breakout rooms, in my own personal opinion and perspective, I think the breakout rooms worked out really well. I think this follow-up and this conversation has worked out really well. I'm gonna ask Pamela to block off like 2 hours on her calendar because it's gonna be a long conversation. And I'll have some kind of follow-up for you all after that conversation, and I'll try to have that conversation with Pamela before our next faculty senate meeting. So we do have just one more faculty senate meeting in April. It will be online, and it's not the last Tuesday of the month. It's the 4th Tuesday of the month because there's the Board of Regents meeting on the last Tuesday.
There was.
There was, but it'll give us time to move to, if we have any action items, to get it on the Board of Regents meeting, so.
Okay, so we're sticking with the 4th Tuesday of the month.
Okay.
So before I actually transition to that, remember last time as a result of the breakout groups, I asked people to let me know if they're interested in working on this, and I had a response from just one faculty member. Just letting you know. So, nothing about us without us. If I can borrow that, is that bad taste to borrow that from disability studies? Basically my point being, if we want to make sure that the administration doesn't move in a direction that we don't want them to move in without us, then we're going to have to participate somehow. I think this is a good start, but I apologize if that was inappropriate to use that moniker, but so again, if anybody's interested in this work, please email me and I'll let Pamela know you're interested. I think what I'll also do is add it to the faculty preference committee survey. If I can, I'll check with Joby about that and add it as a new committee and mention it when it goes out again. See if we can get additional, even non-senator faculty to participate. Doctora Nair, I'm looking at you and Matthew, realizing that I don't think we had representation from your table. I'm sorry. Did you want to add anything? Matthew's like, no.
We had a different couple.
Who's picking the kids up or?
They're giving you the heads up.
So we did not talk about what we're supposed to talk about. Instead, we actually talked about Palestine. And we thought that we should have a stand for the boards of regions and let them know how we feel about Palestine. So that is the conversation that we had at our table. So I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Hence why we were so quiet about it.
Yeah. I hear. She's my colleague in the English department. I am so grateful for her. And for Matt, my colleague in Chicana Studies. I don't know if any of you saw the Board of Regents meeting, this last one, but there were at least 30 comments about Palestine and support for Palestine and divesting and possibly if you go back, because all those Board of Regents meetings are recorded, you can see the line of people for public comment, one after the other, making those comments. I will tell you, I've also had a conversation with President Stokes about this, because early on, she was approached by the Jewish community who wanted her to, say something on behalf of the Jewish community. So I just thought I should let you know that everyone up to the president's office is receiving these messages from both directions. So I don't know how to handle that as a president of a university, but thankfully that's not my job. Just letting you know they're hearing it, they're getting the messages. Yeah. Okay, and again, since would you all mind raising your hand if you're continuing as a senator on the 24-25 academic year? Thank you so much. I look forward to working with you. But how many of you are rotating off? Can we give a hand for our colleague? Sorry to see you go. We've got snacks now. Please be thinking about what you would like the Faculty Senate to focus on in the coming academic year. As you probably have been able to tell, I've been trying to change the format of Faculty Senate, so we're all not just sitting there listening to presentations for 2 hours, but I'm very open to your feedback. If you want to make sure that we have someone come to discuss matters. Also, actually, before I forget, let me hear briefly from you now. I have a meeting with President Stokes coming up on Monday. She always wants to know what faculty are saying. She asked me what you all thought of her State of the University address. Any of you watch it? I was afraid of that. I hemmed and hawed when she asked me what faculty thought about it. But are there any questions that you want me to pose to her or topics that you want to be addressed? Or let me make it even maybe more concise and specific. In April, that'll be our last meeting. It'll be the last opportunity to hear from the provost and the president for the academic year before we go into summer. Is there anything you want them to address? Or you want to be able to ask them questions about, Heather?
Yeah, I think the security situation and safety on campus is an increasingly challenging issue. So just as one example, there was recent threads that happened sort of near Ortega Hall, but they still have like a meet and greet, and there was police officers there, and there wasn't a lot of transparency, and there was some issues that surrounded the dissemination of information, and it seems a little strange to me that there's not some kind of policy in place when there is a credible threat. So is the university making steps towards addressing this and maybe, again, implementing some kind of policy, because things at this point should really have snapped into place. It's been, what, 30 years since Columbine? It's an issue.
Okay. Yeah, were any of you physically at the State of the University address? I was really surprised by how many police officers were there. Outside the subroom where the address was happening, yeah. Anything else? So safety. Compensation.
One thing that's kind of a hot topic and involves in nursing, everybody's on phone contracts. And there is a debate about when you have to take leave. So if we're off on when everybody else is off on spring break,
yeah,
we want to be away, we have to actually use vacation days. The result is people on 12-month contracts actually end up with less days off than people on 9-month contracts. And they're working 12 months. And there is a disagreement between the interpretation of the policy and what the lawyers say, because the lawyer evidently just said, well, when it said break, it didn't mean spring break or fall. It only meant winter break.
I know what the administration's response is gonna be.
Well, we know what it's gonna be.
Well, no, it's gonna be, okay, fine, 9-month faculty have to stay here for spring break.
But the issue is, and here's my right.
Yeah.
We can't keep nursing faculty. We bleed faculty every year. We have the highest turnover rate in the entire university. It was like 17% in the last few years, every year.
That's a lot.
The med school is worse.
Yeah.
And when they get ticked off and leave, you're not only losing faculty, but you're losing your physician. And there's not enough of them to go around. And then they're not paid at the going rate, which goes back to salary, but they want you to kind of work like a dog.
Yeah.
So what harm does it do to say, when the school's on break, nothing's going on anyway?
And you're talking about nursing faculty, right?
I'm talking about anybody on a 12-month contract that's in faculty.
Yeah, okay,
I think it's just nursing's the one that's enforcing.
okay, okay.
I don't care, I'm at 252 hours, I never get, I can't figure out how to be gone. But for the people that want to, mostly people with children, it's a big deal.
Have you guys already started this conversation in HSC Council?
And they did send an email as of today, and we're trying to go up the chain.
Okay, cool.
And now they've sent it to HSC.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, I'll definitely bring it up. Okay, if you think of anything else, feel free to email me. And I'll give you back 10 minutes of your lives. I want to thank Rick and Nancy for helping set up today, for getting us the space, for getting us for getting us the free parking. That was cool. When did that ever happen? Thank you all for being here. I appreciate you, and please let me know if you need anything.
What?